Okay, welcome to Stampscaping 101. I've just been doing some metallic on metallic tests and trying out my Starlite Silver Brilliance with the different iridescence or metallic papers that I happen to have, or a couple of them. And I thought I would follow that test up with kind of a little bit more of a scene here. Now I'm using the Stardream Silver 105-pound cover. Okay. It's a little bit thicker. If you can find some 81-pound kind of text weight, that would be good too. I don't know if it would work differently than the heavier paper. I'm not sure. Yeah, I didn't think it would before, but I really enjoyed the 81-pound lapis lazuli Stardream. But anyways, the thing about this paper now, this one's a half sheet here. The thing that surprised me, I don't know if I can show it on camera here, but do you see that there's a little bit of texture to this paper, but then on this side, I don't know if you can tell, but it's a little bit more textured, so I don't know if there's a smooth side and kind of a more of a rougher side on all of them, or that's just this piece. I don't know. I looked at the other ones, and I don't know. I couldn't really tell, but this one, there does seem to have a slightly different I don't know, texture from one side to the next. Okay, so I'm going to stamp a scene out using Nature Sheet, or set number 12 here. This one's the small lighthouse scene, and I had just cleaned off my stamp here. It's a little linty, though, but we'll just go with that. All right, so silver on silver. We're talking about a very minimal kind of I don't know, depth of field or range, I guess, would be more like it. Range of value and texture. You know, this is a very similar color and texture to the paper itself. Boy, the Starlight Silver, I might have to re-ink it here pretty soon, but let's just go with that. All right, let's go. I'm trying to think of, well, I should go high or low with this one. All right, we'll just go, I don't know, kind of towards the bottom. I want to do my light beam effect on this scene. It's just always kind of an effective use of the light beam type of idea with a lighthouse. It's appropriate. It's just my excuse to do that. Okay, so I'm not sure how much ink I got on there. I've been using that Starlight Silver so much, I'm not sure if I inked it up enough. Oh, perfect. Yeah, it's so minimal, though. Look at that. See how you can see it like that, but then when you see it like this, I almost thought I didn't even stamp it out. Look at this. It's like invisible, but it's down there. That's what's, I don't know, it's just kind of fascinating to me to be working with a really, really minimal value scale, you know. Value is relative light and dark, you know, white and black over here, you know. So this is like a really narrow range of value, so you can't really see it that well. I mean, on white paper you can see just, you know, how much darker that silver is, you know. But silver on silver, God, it doesn't look, it's one of those illusion type things. Which ink is darker, this one or this one? Well, they're the same. It's just that there's so much more contrast right here. All right, so that looks great. I guess I don't need to re-ink my pad, but okay, let's see here. This is the cling foam version of this set. So, all right, so here's the lighthouse. We'll just stamp it right out over here. Yeah, but going back to that value range, I'm used to working with much, much stronger values here, or value changes. And I don't know, this is really quite unusual for me to kind of purposely go for such a minimal range of hue. I just totally double stamp that. I don't know if you can see it right there. there. I don't know. Here, let me get that focus, and there we go. Okay, see that right there? All right. That's not a great, demonstration exhibition there on how to get impressions right there, but we'll show you what to do with something like that. I'm always telling people, you know what? You know, when you stamp the things out, if there's some kind of things along the way, I tell them don't worry about it, because, you know, the things that we do on this layout here, I mean, they kind of, I wouldn't say they eradicate them, but they minimize things like that. So I'm going to put in, you know, like a light beam and like a glowing light in the back there. So that'll kind of minimize that. Okay, now these are some rocks, so we'll throw these ones in the foreground. It was just kind of some crashing rocks on waves here. I don't know how I got that such a bad, you know, double stamp there. I guess, I don't know, I guess I touched it down and went over the top of it. That happens to me. Just like all of us, okay? But again, we don't sweat the small stuff in life, especially when it comes to stamping. You know, just stay with it. You don't need to. I mean, if this is white paper, I don't know. You know, do I toss it out? Maybe. I mean, you can always use this other side of it too. But my suggestion is just to stick with it and see what comes out. All right, so that is that. Okay, we got these rocks down here, and this is the imagery is showing up a little bit better than I don't know, would have thought with the silver against silver. But again, it depends on kind of the lighting that's in there. Okay, so this is the cloud. Cloud space stamp. All right. Now I'm going to go for multiple impressions of this to get some darker and lighter impressions. Okay. By the third one, I didn't have anything on there, so let me go for that again. You can go right down here onto the horizon too if you want to. All right, so we have something like this, right? One of the things for me too that I kind of had to figure out in doing an assessment on this media surface combination was, when I stamp the silver out on here, is the silver going to be darker or lighter? The silver ink I'm talking about. Is the silver ink going to be darker or lighter than the surface? If it's lighter than, then it represents, you know, light. But if it's dark enough, then, you know, it represents the, I don't know, whatever the shadow area is. Okay? All right, so that looks pretty good in terms of standing out. But like I said, you know, if you put it at certain angles, we're talking about a pretty kind of minimal visual there in terms of what we can see, right? All right, so let's see. This being darker than the surface at most angles, you know, is good because then we can use this as a shading type of vehicle too. All right, so that being said, that will help me out with that double stamping there too. So let's go in with a little cotton ball here. This was I just have a big pile of them here until they get too crusty and I can't use them anymore. You might as well use them, right? All right, so this is just silver on cotton ball, and we're going to do a little bit of blending on here. It's really weird doing kind of blending with metallic inks like that. I don't know what it feels like. It feels like what does it feel? It feels like, well, it definitely, a lot of times inks feel like paint anyway, but these ones especially, I don't know, it's the metallic aspect of it. It feels like a like a model paint or something like that. You know, we always used to use model paints, you know, for those old-time models, you know, where you put it together with, you know, like a plastic model, you glue it together and whatnot. But it feels like that type of paint to me. Those little tiny, I think they were Testers or something like that. Wasn't that the brand? Testers paints. All right, kind of adding a little bit of this around. Now this is Brilliance ink, okay? And Brilliance ink will dry on this type of surface right here. I thought other types of pigment inks would, and I've tried like a VersaFine Clair on the lapis lazuli, and it looked pretty good when I first stamped it out, but over time it just kind of smeared out. It didn't dry. Maybe if you heat set it would, you know, which you can do. But just letting it air dry, for me, it didn't work. But that was black on lapis lazuli. If it's different for other types of inks, I don't know. I'm guessing it wouldn't be. I'm guessing, if anything, it would be even more so with like a silver. I don't know. I think the silver maybe, you know, with that metallic aspect of it, could potentially dry a little bit slower. But I don't know. Play around with things if you have certain types of combinations. You know, you don't have to do a full scene with it or anything like that. You can just kind of try it out on a small piece of scrap or something like that and test it out and see if it dries. I don't know if it will or not. I know we don't like, you know, doing that. We just like doing our things. We don't like doing all these experiments of kind of media, you know, compatibility or whatever. I don't either necessarily, but I don't know. It's a good idea to do. And then once you know it, then, you know, you'll always know it. You don't have to use combinations that don't work, okay? But do get to know kind of the basics on, you know, certain types of media out there. You know, what is a pigment ink? It's oil-based, you know, and dye-based, you know, the differences between dye-based, oil-based, alcohol inks, pigment inks, you know, and the types of surfaces that they can generally be used on. Okay, so I'm just adding, you know, see that I kind of added a little bit of a horizon down there with that silver, but look at that. It's just so minimal in terms of the range, the contrast. It's just a very minimal look. It it feels like I don't know, somewhat of an antiqued type of look to it. I don't know, pewter. It looks like pewter to me, like working with pewter. I remember when I was a little kid, I used to like collecting those. I wouldn't say I collected, but I have a few of those pewter little sculptures of things. I forget what they were. I think they were. I used to run into those types of things when I was going around collecting comics, but a lot of times the comic book types of places that would carry comic books, if it wasn't just a dedicated comic book store, would, you know, they'd have like a, you know, multiple things like you know, the fantasy types of figures, you know, for like Dungeons and Dragons and whatnot. But I used to like collecting little pewter little figures. Okay, so that is that. Let me get a little bit on that lighthouse as well. Okay, so this is where this will start kind of coming around a little bit more when we introduce some white. Okay, so I do want to get a little bit of range in here in terms of contrasts, and it won't be too much because we're not going into black here. I mean, not that you can't, you know, I'm not doing it just out of principle here, but I want to go for a certain look with this, so we're going to start utilizing the white. And I tell you what, so white, we'll do it in the form of the Brilliance Moonlight White, again, because it'll dry on here. But let's also do some of the white paint pen, okay? That's a formidable, you know, tool within our supplies here. And we'll get it right in the lamp here, okay? So, and then there are these two windows on the side of the lighthouse. We'll put kind of an inner glow like that, okay? You see, it's like looking through the fog, isn't it? And it is. It does look really foggy in here because there's just so narrow of a range of tones. You know, when there's a real foggy day, you don't have like real bright brights and real dark shadows at all. You know, everything's kind of a little bit washed out. Okay, and I don't know, it has a good look to it. But look at that right there. Okay, so that is that. And let's get going with some of this white. Let's see, do I have a clean cotton ball here? We have our pigment ink applicators. I'm joking. These are cotton balls here. All right, so let's add in some little haze down here and mist, and then we'll apply it for the light beam. Okay, so I'm getting a pretty good amount on this, and I'll start adding some of it down here amongst the crashing waves. Okay. There's a nice illumination. I hope it's picking it up on camera. Yeah, you can see the lighter area in there. But isn't the lighthouse kind of a perfect kind of visual for this media combination here in terms of creating that that illusion of mist or fog, going with silver on silver. Plus it's kind of light, that it would reflect that. I mean, you can do all these types of things, like you can go black on, like black paper or something like that, but that would be very dark, of course. I do like that look, though, like black on like a dark blue or something like that, the lapis lazuli that I was talking about. But this one has a different feel to it with this lighting in here. All right, so there's that. Okay. Now, see, I'm not adding like a big slathering of that white, so it never gets like stark white, like, tapping it down like that. But you kind of just build it up with a little bit of white, and it just gets lighter and lighter, kind of the more you add to it, okay? Now, I'm guessing that as I'm doing this, I'm probably going around and lifting some of the silver, okay? The silver dries on here, but it doesn't dry like super fast or anything. So if I wipe my finger across it, it's not going to wipe off the image, but I'll get some, see, like handling this. See, I have it silver on my fingertips here. See that? I mean, I can't tell, like on like foils, if I put ink down and I just touch it, it's it's like lifting off all the ink. On this one, I can't really tell where I've touched, like around the perimeter here and removed ink. On the foils, you remove almost like 100% of it, but on this, it's probably just giving me a little bit of a smudge. Okay. Okay, that looks about right. Right there. We have to go a little bit lighter than what you might think is ideal, because when this white dries over the top of this silver, it dries more translucent, kind of moving towards transparent. So you have to add a little bit more because, I don't know, that's just what white pigment ink always does. When it dries, it just, the underneath, the colors underneath always show through a little bit more. Okay, that is that. Now let me go back up in here and address that kind of double impression here. So I'm going to do that with, let's see, let's fray a little cotton swab here. Okay, we'll kind of loosen it up at the top right there. You don't want to you don't want it frayed, really, but you just kind of loosen up that tightly bound cotton up there. And then ink up, and then really tap a lot of that off too. And then go right into that area up there, right around the lamp, okay? So, okay. Now I'm just kind of tapping it around in this general vicinity. But what it did was it just decreased the contrast around that, that double stamping right there. So, I mean, something like that. That will be where the light's coming from. So when you look at it like this, we're not thinking, oh my gosh, there's that double stamping over there. That's why, it just, you really don't need to worry about that type of thing. Now, I lost a little bit of that kind of slightly brighter light in there with the paint, so you just kind of reapply it like that. Okay, so that is that. All right, let's get that beam applied in here. You just take 2 pieces of paper, and on this one, if we're just kind of creating a light source, then it's good to kind of create a vanishing point dot there. But on this one right here, you have the lamp of the lighthouse, so that's where the light would be emanating from. So you don't need to draw a reference dot there, a reference point. So we'll take the white, and then we'll apply it in. Okay. And then remember, this light is kind of going through different clouds, so it doesn't have to be a super strong beam in terms of consistent. What I do is I just kind of add it in here like so. And what I like to do is I like to make it a little bit stronger towards the source, and then as you get kind of out here away from it, especially this beam is going to be very long, it can be a little bit more varied. It doesn't have to be consistent. Okay. Now on this one, I definitely need to check it out, because white against silver is not going to stand out as much as white against a darker color like black or a dark blue or something like that, or if I'm usually doing like a nighttime sky. But I'll make it a little bit stronger in some areas, but there you have it, like there. Okay. Right. I'm wondering if it's flared enough, like out. I think I might want to flare it out a little bit more. So I'll come in here like that. Okay, let's just do it on one side. I'll do it on the bottom part. So you just add a little bit more, like this. Alright, so see, it's not even in here, so it's like making its way through clouds, right? In the surrounding area. Okay. Alright. That is that. Now we're working with white. We worked with light versions of white, right? Now, let's work with some lighter versions of that with our pen again, maybe. And let's see. I just cleaned off my toothbrush again here, my fancy Oral-B splatter paint tool. I'm joking, it's just an old toothbrush. Alright, and what we'll do is we'll add in some splashing waves down here. God, look how light that is. This is almost like you're looking through the fog and then, you know, just the cloud, you know, the clouds are kind of changing things. Sorry you can't hardly see anything in this video that I'm actually doing here because the contrast is so poor, but I don't know, I'll hold it up, try to remember to hold it up more often. Okay, so I'm just getting this, the consistency of approximately something like syrup or something of that sort. Thick, but, you know, maybe not too thick. I don't know. I mean, there's plenty of leeway here. It doesn't. You don't have to get the consistency. You're not perfect, you know, whatsoever. But that's roughly it. Like a, you know, like a syrup to thin, very thin syrup, you know, roughly. Okay, so on this one right here, let's zoom in a touch. And we have our crashing waves down here. Okay, I'll hold it up at an angle. I think you'll be able to see a little bit more of that kind of texture. All right, now there's crashing waves all over down here too. I don't know if you can see that. But look at that. Isn't that quite dimensional? Doesn't it look like fog and kind of crashing waves like that? All right, let's add some over here. I mean, at certain angles, I can barely see it. You know, it's right in front of me. It's just, you know, that kind of that glare of that. You know, that light is on there. It's hard to see. Okay, so that looks pretty good. Okay. What do you think? I think the sky could use a little bit of texture too. Let's use this in the sky as some stars, okay? I'm just flipping it upside down so you can kind of see what's happening here, hopefully. Okay, I think that looks pretty good. It just adds a little bit of that contrast up there, you know, in the sky. Those little stars. We'll add, you know, maybe we'll make some of those glow a little bit more. All right. I'm assessing here, trying to figure out what I want to do. Okay, I think we can use a little bit more, I wouldn't say contrast here, but here's these little seagulls, okay. We'll add some little gulls, but we're staying away from black, so let's do it again in silver. I could have, you know, used some of the platinum too. I believe the platinum was a little bit darker when I've tried it before. Sometimes the platinum and silver were great in combination with one another. Okay, there was a little bit of black on my birds from not cleaning them off the last time I used them, so. Alright, I'll throw them right here. Don't squish them down, just very low, small and low surface image here, so don't use the same pressure that you used on a much larger stamp, otherwise you'll have a bunch of squashed seagulls. Okay, that is that. We can put a little sailboat out here if we want to. Let me try to decide. I think you can use it. Boy, you can't see anything, can you? There we go. To me, looking at it, it looks like, for the most part, like that when I'm working on it. Like sitting here and holding it, I can see it like that. I mean, I just have all these studio light kind of glaring down here, so I know it's kind of hard to see. I mean, at certain angles, that's what I see too, but you can really see a lot more here. Okay, so, all right, there's my. Oh, so maybe I should do this one in the platinum, but then maybe it wouldn't match as much. Okay, so let's go about right here. I have my eagle on the top of this with the tack and peel. I use that eagle quite a lot, so I figured I'd just leave it mounted on that. Okay, there's my little people going out for a little bit of a ride here. Putting my stamps away here. Okay, let's take a look here. I'm surprised at how well the images stamp out on how clear they are when I'm stamping it in a pigment ink. You know, pigment inks are just so thick, and you know my designs have a lot of detail in them. So, I mean that's some pretty good resolution right there. Can't even focus. My camera's having a hard time focusing because there's no contrast here. But yeah, look at that light shining through the fog. Then you have your. It just looks so different, you know. See that white kind of starts to glow. You know, the darker you take it, but then you show it like that. I guess you could see it, but just at different angles, you know, we're presented with you know, just a very different looking piece because the contrast just gets so much more extreme, you know, from certain views. Okay, let's go with the white now. Paint pen, and let's go in and, you know, now that I've kind of situated, you know, the areas in terms of light and dark and whatnot, you know, and we've done these kind of more general types of illuminations down here. I can go in with the specifics now. Sometimes if I add too much specific little highlights, you know, it can overpower something. So sometimes it's good to kind of get everything established, the general areas, you know, the wide areas of ink applications, you know, the shading, you know, the very general illuminations with, you know, the cotton ball lighting. Now I can go in and add these little sparkly little bits, okay? I mean, you could do this before you do that too, but I don't know, I just think it's easier just to see things, how they'll kind of interact. So anyways, those are those little dots like that. I'm almost thinking about masking this off and giving this, the background, a little bit of illumination on the horizon. Let's do that. Let's go ahead and try that here. Okay, where's my white? Is this my white one? Yeah, this is my white cotton ball. Let's go for this white here. And what I'll do is I'll just take this. I gotta, you know, watch that sailboat that's still real wet. Okay, so I'll just go like this right here, and then I'll just take a little bit of this, and I'll just kind of create a little bit of a horizon glow in a small little area. I mean, it would be better if I did this before I put that sailboat down there, because you know I'd be able to go a little bit wider down there, but oh well. Yeah, I'll go on the other side of the sailboat a touch. Okay, let's see how that looks. Yeah, it looks pretty good. It just created a little bit more contrast between the horizon and that glow. You know, look at that. See that? It creates a little bit more separation down there. You can also do that thing with the ripped paper towel up here for different clouds and sky illuminations, cloud illuminations. Let's put a few little streaks in there. I think that might be kind of interesting too. Okay. The white, bleed-proof white splatter painting, those things are already long dry. They dry really, that paint really dries fast. Whatever makes it so opaque and kind of, chalky of a material. All right, so this scene's about kind of subtlety, so these little streaks back into here with the white are looking, quite nice, I should say. So it's really integrating that background a little bit more from a textural standpoint. All right, let's take a look at that. Yeah, look at that. See that haze up there? That's the white. Look at that. It's kind of giving it a nice atmosphere. Okay. I mean, I'm applying it right over the silver that I've kind of blended in there. It's kind of nice to be able to go right over it with the white like that. Okay. Go down, add a little bit more illumination down here. Okay, let's see. In some ways, it almost looks a little bit too busy when you go like that, But on the overall, I don't know, I think everything merges in fairly well with each other and kind of harmonizes, I guess. I guess that's the word, not merges, but kind of harmonizes. Everything is, the different textures in here are reasonably distinct. Okay, now these little splashy kind of waves down here, where we've splatter painted that in here, I'm just going to go and reiterate it, with specific little dots here, just to kind of emphasize some of those splashes, okay? And some of them, these little splashing kind of, splatter painting dots, I couldn't see them very well because I tapped over them with the white, ink. But this is a way to go back in and add some brighter ones back in there, so you have the brighter and ones that are kind of pushed back with a layer of this over the top of it. So you can kind of create a little bit more depth that way by having multi-toned little kind of dots down there. See that? I mean, that looks really super busy like that, right? But this is what it really looks like, at arm's distance. So you have to kind of push it a little bit, for it to stand out. And then, we're also looking at it like that, where you can't really see it, but I don't know. But it's a really fun, I don't know, it's just a different way to work, You're looking at something. For me, I'm looking at something just, I've done this composition before, but kind of not with this type of media here. Look at this. I mean, that boat's like disappears. I mean, something like this would be cool, like if it was like a wraparound, like a bottle or something like that. So looking at it like that way. I don't know. It's just fun for me to look at it at different angles. I think it looks fairly dimensional in terms of like deep space, from certain angles too. And considering, that's pretty good considering there's so minimal contrast, and we're starting off with that silver paper like that. But I don't know, doesn't that look kind of like an aged, kind of weathered, I don't know what they call it, patina or something like that. It looks kind of like pewter, like I said. All right, so I think that's it. I don't know. I'll figure out some sort of little matting too with it. You know, it looks like it would be like a. Whenever I have like tiny little dots like that, I like to give it a little border like that. But the silver foil is such an inexpensive paper. But I think, you know, something like that silver foil would look really good like that, don't you? See that little white there to bring out the white in here, and then you have the silver foil as kind of like a nice framing device like that. Yeah. I don't know, black maybe too, but I think the silver foil would be kind of more in theme with that. All right, so anyways, hope you enjoyed the scene, the entire process, the experiment, I should say. And you like the kind of the foggy different ways of how light and fog, light and shade work on this with this type of media surface combination. Okay, thanks again for watching.